I think this is a special night, so we'll see.
Right. This is a special night, and I have actually no questions on the agenda.
Yeah,
But and I'm not sure that Venita is going to make it.
no problem.
She had a meeting, so she may come in late. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And I know you've been kind of following the election all day, and so have I. So this is probably a good time for us to release some of that energy. But let's do our introductions. And I did do an agenda with a summary, which I'll read, just so we can pass through this section of the book. So let me say, welcome everyone to Reading for Change, a Collective Journey, where we are reading The Coming Plague, Newly Emerging Diseases in a World Out of Balance by Laurie Garrett. And we're finishing up chapter 9 tonight, which is the chapter dealing with cities, and moving on to the whole chapter 10, which is dealing with STDs. But the writer of this book, Laurie Garrett, has also been watching the election with a minute by minute kind of attention. Because as we see in this book, and as we see in the example of COVID, there's a very intricate and intimate relationship between politics and disease. So we've been living through a case study. Anyway, I'm Michelle Odom. I'm located in Brooklyn, New York, and happy to be here, and happy that it looks like Joe Biden is going to be the president-elect. I'll be happier when we get to 270, but so far so good. And you are, my friend?
I am superstitious. I don't like talking about it. It's like in soccer until the last minute. Nothing, and it could go on for days after that, based on different state constitutions and whatnot. But we'll
Legal
see. I mean,
challenges.
last night looked grim. This morning looked strange. Like, yeah, let's not hope. And this afternoon, one by one, we're like, what? No, not Wisconsin, Michigan. So I'd like to thank Detroit for showing up. I'm not going to name anybody, but let's just say some communities did their job another time, because each time they don't show up, things go south. So they're like, okay, we're going to come.
And tell us who you are.
Oh, I'm Rick. Rick Chopin from Queens, New York. Sorry. It's been a long night, long day, long everything.
You're going to confuse the audience. Sometimes you're Rick Chopin, sometimes you're Rick Terry.
It's both names, Terry Chopin, but just like in France, it's Terry because it's the name of the father. In America, it's on the birth certificate, so it's a nightmare. Customs hate me. Never works out.
Yeah.
I always get confused, like, are you a terrorist or something? Like, seriously, tell us. Let's make it easy.
Yeah. So let me just get the summary of these chapters out of the way, and then we can have at it. So, chapter 9, micromagnets, urban centers of disease, shows by 1980, the world's population had swelled to 5 billion people, And increasingly, the cities grew from 2 megacities in 1950, New York and London, to 10 megacities by 1980. Even wealthy parts of the world found it challenging to meet the needs of the new urban dwellers. Needs largely went unmet in the developing world, where urban squalor, malnutrition, and weakened immune systems provided ample opportunities for disease emergence. Previously infrequently seen and mostly rural parasites spread easily in urban centers. The toll in human life and productivity was both tragic and substantial. Chapter 10, Distant Thunder, Sexually Transmitted Diseases and Injecting Drug Users, reviews the history of the 1969 Stonewall riots and gay liberation, sexual liberation, and the pill, and the relationship these events and movements had with public health during the 1970s and 80s. After a deep plunge in incidence of STDs following the introduction of antibiotics in the 1940s, by 1975, a long list of STDs were back with a vengeance. About the same time, an increase in drug abuse was occurring among heroin and cocaine users. Both populations, the sexually active and drug users, offered environments in which disease thrived. So I guess my first question for you, Rick Terry Shelpin, is what do you anticipate? So let's say Joe Biden becomes our next president. What do you anticipate will happen with our little coronavirus problem once he is in office?
I think that unlike
and what might happen if the freak stays in office?
well, the difference, Joe Biden and Trump are both senile. But the difference is that Joe Biden realizes he gets into blunder after blunder. He gets it. He's like, oh, shoot. So he'll come in office and say, could you please hire people who know that stuff? Because, I don't know,
Right.
like there's a lot of, it's overwhelming. Could we hire everybody that was like fired that used to be like scientists and the military? Hey, the Pentagon, hey, do you want power? Yes, please. Okay. Do you have good generals? Yes, let's. You don't want any freaks? Yeah, please don't bring us a guy telling us how to, because it happened with the Trump administration or the CDC. Bring us Dr. Atlas. The Pentagon had guys like that. Like, you need to fight like this. Yeah, we have experience. We fought in Vietnam when we were young. You shut up. I know better than you. Like Biden will bring in people that know how to do the job. And nobody, I mean, you got to be stupid to believe that a president does everything. Obama didn't do everything, but that's a president's here to lead, not to do everything. The president says, who can I get who knows that shit? He's good. What's his name? Fauci? Yeah, AIDS stuff, like he did stuff like that. Yeah, like bring him. That's their job. Their job is not to solve all the problems. They can't. They need and Trump is like, anybody who disagrees with me or upsets me or coughs in the room, they're so gone. So it's really like a 16-year-old that thinks she's the center of the world, and Joe Biden is like, oh, I'm so old, I can't believe this is happening. I need help. And I like that. And also I like the fact that if Mike Pence becomes president, it's still the problem. If Kamala Harris becomes president, she's more like, she's Kamala. She's gonna be like, it's gonna be tough for a lot of people because she's strong. She's not like, So I mean, Joe Biden got elected because of her. I think he would have put anybody else on the ticket, he would have been a gunner.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think he, she definitely helped the ticket in some ways, but I think a part of the reason this count has been so close is because of her. For example, my friend BJ, who is in our other book group, had posted something recently on Facebook where she was making some calls the day before the election. And she said, like, one of the first calls she got sounded like a old Southern white woman who's been smoking cigarettes all her life. And the first thing she said is, I ain't voting for no nigga, you know. And so, you know, but I think that has been a real factor in the close count, that, you know, we've been biting our nails and sitting on the edge of our seats all day.
I think your friend lacks imagination. I would have responded, so you're not voting Donald Trump, man. What do you mean? Oh, you didn't know? You didn't know? Everybody knows. Right. His mother cheated on his father. He look at him. Why is he orange? He's hiding. He's, you know, you could invent conspiracy theories. I fight fire with fire. Like when people tell me, you know what, their children being blah 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 by Hillary Clinton, etc. And I'm always like, you're right, probably. And you know, I heard something else. The Catholic Church actually has thousands of victims right now. Apparently, it's every day. Maybe we should go with a machine gun inside the church, like they did in the pizza parlor in DC.
Thousands of victims of what?
Of pedophilia. You know, the QAnon thing that justifies. Yeah, I'm always like, okay, so you're so worried about children. Like there's a conspiracy of Hillary Clinton drinks blood from children and they rape them. Okay, right. The church is doing that and we have proof.
Right.
Why are you not going? Why? And this is my theory about QAnon people and you have to be careful with people who fight pedophilia that's not existent.
Right.
Because there's a twisted mind behind it. Why are you so fascinated by showing people you're moral about children getting horribly raped? It's not just pedophilia, because, you know, the majority of pedophilia is not like, they have 3 categories in psychology, and there's the fantasy person who downloads pictures. So there's the second nature that looks for love in a twisted way, and there's the third, the predator, in the sense that that person wants to hurt. And they're pretty much balanced, all 3 groups, but they have different behaviors. And the thing is that they attack
balanced in terms of the numbers,
proportion in the population. The general population, 10% has pedophilic inclinations per psychological reports, and a third of them are fantasizers, a third of them are active seducers, which means that they will never hurt, apparently, which even messes more with the child's mind, because it hurts without hurting. You know what I mean? They're about candies, they're priests, you know, cool guys. That kind of predator. And you have the active, violent predator, which, you know, kidnaps children, makes videos of them for the internet. So it's a cycle. And the thing is that I believe that a lot of people in QAnon are among these 3 cycles, because you have this couple that kidnapped their children and killed them, you know, they were QAnon too, because they wanted to protect them from a cabal of people who would rape them, but you killed them.
Right.
So I think there's something very dirty behind the QAnon people mentally.
You know, one of those QAnon people has now been elected to
Two. Yeah, they announced that. I don't know which other state. So yeah, this is going to be fun. I mean, we all thought the Tea Party was crazy. We're like, yeah, they're crazy. No, they're pretty moderate now, by all means.
Exactly.
I regret the Tea Party. Seriously, I never thought I would have said that. I regret Sarah Palin.
Yeah, not so bad. Yeah, well, I agree. That's going to be the key thing, that Joe will bring in people who this is what they do. This is what they do. Um, I'm stumbling because I'm thinking I have that image in my head of one of those final Trump spectacle super spreader events where the crowd was screaming fire Fauci.
Yeah. And every scientist out there, there are a lot of articles in epidemiology that are very unpopular among non-epidemiologists, but we love them. Like, we have some articles showing that cancer might be a natural reaction to overpopulation, and cells do this and that, and you don't need to live anymore because you're not struggling. Like, there's a theory in epidemiology that if a body doesn't struggle, it's unhealthy. A body needs to run, it needs to fight, it needs, like animals. Animals are all the time either sleeping or ultra active, never in between, just it's super rare. And usually when they do
Mm-hmm,
so, they get diabetes. Like a cat gets diabetes. Like, how is that possible? Like, I blame the
mm-hmm,
I blame the owner. I'm like, the cat is supposed to move a lot. You should play with the cat.
mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is
And
simply,
humans too.
and humans too, and we don't struggle anymore. And one thing I notice is that the people who struggle the less are the sickest, even mentally. And I'm thinking about all the internet trolls that voted for, who want to hurt people and out people, and talk about freedom of speech, but each time you criticize them, they swat you. They send tons of trolls and harassing messages to your job place. They're the ones who invented that. You talk about
Yeah.
cancel culture. The goddamn alt-right in the late 2000s, early 2010s was doing that all over the place.
Mm-hmm,
Women
mm-hmm,
who would disagree with them on gamer chats would get death threats at their
mm-hmm,
door. These
mm-hmm,
guys are telling us that cancel culture is a problem. To me, cancel culture is a problem because, since when do we ask companies to determine morals of a society? I'm not asking Amazon to cancel their shows. They came up with these shows. I might cancel my account, but I'm not going to ask them. They're nobody. They're not supposed to do government. The
mm-hmm,
whole thing. Hey, you need to remove your ads from Fox News. It's capitalism. If tomorrow the Nazis are the most popular and the richest, they'll be Nazi. You know, that's
mm-hmm,
what companies do.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh, Nazis have more money than everybody else. We like Nazis. You'll see. They
Right,
tried to do
right.
that. ABC with Roseanne. Like, they were surprised when there was a blow when she tweeted. Like, why were you surprised? She's been doing that for like more than a decade. Like,
Yeah,
she, it's like Trump. We didn't know he was like that. What?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I met some undecided voters who are like,
Right.
are you do you understand object permanence? When I'm still there, you do understand that, right? Like, I'm sorry, but it's just, how can you be undecided? Or if you're undecided at this point, you don't vote. I'm like, no, I don't care. Just say it.
Yeah, and I think some of those are people that just didn't want to admit in public, that they were really Trump supporters. And I can't blame them for that. I wouldn't want to.
Except
I wouldn't want to admit that.
I noticed something, Ice Cube and Lil Wayne. What I noticed is that these guys, I love both of them. Like, Ice Cube is some of my favorite songs in the 90s come from him and NWA when he was there in the band. But let's be very honest with Ice Cube. Let's be very honest with Lil Wayne. They stopped being relevant years ago, and they kind of betrayed way before that. And the thing that I don't like with these guys is that they come up with the idea that they met with Donald Trump about helping Black communities. And you're like, nobody elected you, number one. Number two, you're just a rapper. And it's just part of the racist trope that the only thing that Black people can do to become rich, not wealthy, is to do rap and show some bling. It's like, and you guys fall for Donald Trump. This is what I don't understand with these guys, is that
Oh,
they were
Benita's
critical of
here.
everybody but not Trump, because Trump is money and they like money. They're just about money.
Yeah, yeah. Hey there. Are you there?
Yeah, how you doing?
Hi, Venita.
Good. How are you?
Well,
Give us your
I'm feeling
introduction and tell us how you're feeling.
My name is Venita Walker, and I'm joining you from Cromwell, Connecticut. And here's my entry. Yep, my book. I got this one right here.
All right.
Here's my entry.
All right.
Yes. Oh, Lord.
So we are just having a free-floating election results debriefing, relaxing, intermittent discussion of disease going on.
Okay.
So the question, there are no questions on the agenda. The question that we're looking at right now is if Biden is elected, what do you think he will do about coronavirus? And if, as my friend Venita would say, if for some ungodly reason that monster stays in office, what will happen with coronavirus? That's where we are.
Well, I do believe if Biden is elected, because I mean, he's an old man too. He don't have so much time left. I think he wants to spend the last few years, corona free, trying to enjoy himself as much as possible. He has a beautiful wife, So I think things will be handled a lot different. Fauci will not get fired. The World Health Organization will become members again, send that money in. I don't think it'd be any issue whatsoever with the coronavirus. You will still have the Trumpers running around, trying to kill people as usual because they're too far gone. Okay, Trump has got no, you can't do nothing for those people. You can't do anything for those people. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not even going to concentrate on them. We already know what their agenda is. Obviously they enjoy suffering and death, and that's okay. But I do think Biden will handle a lot differently because there's no doubt in my mind that he will not be handling this a lot differently, and we'll be able to try to get things tight. Now, Wall Street today, I was watching. I wanted to mention that fact because I watch Wall Street every day. Girl, they all in the frenzies. All that top 1% that own 70% of the stock on Wall Street. Yeah, some of them saying today, well, if Trump wins, because that was earlier, I think that was much, much earlier. If he does win, we don't have anything to worry about. But doggone it, we done moved all our assets around and, this and that. But the technology industry is bidding for Biden, because of the regulations that Trump wants to put in place. Meanwhile, you have the pharmaceuticals on the other side saying we want Trump, So it's interesting when you listen to the reasons why people are, and there's so many really different. I mean, it's a host of reasons, some of which I've never even thought about. And I'm like, white people, are you kidding me? But they weren't. They were dead serious.
Pharmaceuticals, just I need to intervene. Pharmaceuticals are against Trump because Trump has threatened to put drug cap prices on American drugs or import them from Canada, which is a problem for pharmaceuticals because they want to make a lot of money off the American consumer. This is one of the rare good things, surprisingly, this administration has done by accident, because by accident, they reinforced Obamacare when they implemented, and nobody really reported on that because it's very technical, but they reported, they created a system where literally now, when you go to the pharmacy, they have a duty to tell you if the drug can be cheaper elsewhere, which they didn't have before. But that's the only thing I can think about this administration they did right. The only thing. But the pharmaceuticals, here's the thing. I heard Wall Street is happy what they call a gridlock. They want Biden president and the House to be Republican, so no policy will ever happen. That's their idea.
Well,
and that's who Wall Street is. Please don't move.
That's pretty much what it looks like we're going to have. I mean, Mitch McConnell.
He survived. What the?
He survived.
And
Well, he was
Lindsey
going to
Graham.
survive.
Yeah.
Well, he
Lindsey
was
Graham,
gonna
I hate
survive.
that guy.
Yeah.
Well, they all will survive because they're in the racist states. If you
Susan
go down to
Collins
the,
survived.
who?
Susan Collins.
Yeah.
Even
I
the
know.
women
Well,
Susan
Republicans hate.
Collins.
They're like, she
yeah,
never knows what she wants.
no, no. But at this point, you know, Republicans have a whole different agenda. You know what I'm saying? It's not about policies and procedures. It's about, you know, Donald Trump said he's going to kill all the black people and the brown people and the poor people in the world.
He's the
You know,
least racist people he's ever been.
Yeah.
And nobody
Yeah.
notices
you
when he
know,
says, I'm the least racist, you're still racist. Least
well,
racist
when you
still
say
means
you're the least
racist.
racist, right? I mean, Donald Trump is just is an
You're either
ignoramus.
not
Period.
or you are.
I mean, he's declaring victory. He declared victory last night, this morning or something. I'm like, wait a minute, Donald. In the same breath, he's saying count all the damn votes. I'm like, Donald, make your mind up. Now, do you want to count the damn votes or do you want to stop the shit right now? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that freaks you out with this fool. You make up your mind what you want to do.
He's
now
a
you're
kid.
saying it's voter fraud. You're saying it's voter fraud because the votes, you know, votes are still coming in and they're not.
He behaves like
You
a
know,
kid. Like, you know, when you're playing football as a kid or basketball, and all of a sudden in the middle of the game, you invent rules. Like, hey,
oh
we're
yes,
supposed to stop the election at
yeah,
midnight. No more counting. Where does
yeah.
that come from? Well, it was the rule, right? Wait, you know, when he's
It's
a
like they, you know,
15-year-old.
right. So I think it's also the reason why I said pharmaceuticals because I was listening to a pharmaceutical. I forgot which company he was from. It's a pretty large one. One of the CEOs on Wall Street today, and he seems to be confident. Although I do know that the pharmaceutical companies, giants, were really shaken by the things that Trump is doing. They're all about money, you know, and pushing dope. That's why when he was on that hydroxychloroquine kick, the stock went through the roof. I couldn't get none, no, not a drop. And I take it, you know, for my lupus.
For you, there's a
I
reason.
want to pick up on what you said earlier, Venita, about white folks being comfortable with death, and
Yes.
tie it a little bit to chapter 10 that dealt with the drug abuse epidemic going on in the 1980s.
Well, are you speaking particularly about the gay population? Because I thought that was interesting.
No, that chapter, but the end of that chapter focuses on just the drug epidemic, you know.
Generation
But
X.
but also, I want to tell Rick about one of the chapters that we just read in our other book, Cast. So there's a chapter that is talking about the how the death rate for middle-aged white people started going up. And I don't remember what year, but I think it kind of coincides with this 1980s period.
1973 oil shock. The end of the
Oh,
30
yeah?
glorious years, we call them.
Okay.
After World War II,
And
huge economic boom. Generation, my mother, like they were born, they had for Christmas an orange when they were 5.
yeah,
She's 75. She got kids living in several countries. We had huge houses, cars, dogs, all expensive. I had all the gaming systems. In just a matter of 30 years, she had gone from an orange to that kind of wealth. And all of a sudden, the oil shock. And all of that generation goes unemployed. And that's the source of our discontent to
right. And so that coincides with the start of the opioid epidemic and cocaine,
heroin. Think about grunge.
and all of that.
Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Woodstock. Yeah. And because it really has been interesting to watch. I mean, I know racism is deep and pervasive and not going anywhere anytime soon. But to see all of these white people. And it wasn't just white people. I mean, apparently there were a lot of Native Americans, a lot of Latinos, and a good number of Black people who voted for Trump. But, I'm just going to have to keep tossing this around. How does that happen? Well, I mean, what's the death toll now on COVID? Where are we?
240,000, I think
Yeah, but that's not everyone's concern. You have to realize that is not everyone's priority.
In the midst of
that the COVID is not everyone's priority. I know Wall Street, COVID is not their priority. They're more concerned about the economy. They're not concerned about COVID.
Well, they are.
But,
because they're not stupid. In Wall Street, they know that if the pandemic is not under control, the problem is not positivity rate, is that if hospital system collapse, what do you do with factory workers that get hurt? What do you do with CEO who need their cancer treatment to make decisions? And they know the economy collapses behind. What Wall Street is worried about, I think, is not that much. I mean, you look at Wall Street, they're actually, billionaires are making more money they've ever made because Wall Street is doing something. What I'm really worried about is that they're happy. If I were Wall Street, I would be happy because I would be thinking, we can remove all jobs. We can go full virtual. Now they're used to it. Now they accept the possibility. No more movie theaters, no more stores, no more retail, no more little jobs. McDonald's, now we deliver. Popeyes delivers. Over with, they're going to reduce to nothing. And we're going to have a lot of unemployed people that are going to be considered. And to your point, what do we do? And to the point of the offer of case, what happens then?
Well, they already counted, to be honest with you, for me watching Wall Street, they already counted the population of people that are unemployed out as soon as they're unemployed. Okay, Wall Street today sat there and said that they were hoping, about Trump, because one thing they did not want is for them to give more relief. They did not want to run up another tab trying to save the poor people that have been hungry since July of 26 or back in March and before. So Wall Street really, they're kind of torn because they gave both scenarios. With Trump, we ain't got to worry about that because, boom. But with Biden's going to start taking care of poor people and feeding them and make sure they got medical care and all that shit. No, Wall Street really, that's what I hear today. I'm like, wow, y'all. I mean, they are really on the roll. When they say with Biden, they really have those concerns.
Like Rick James used to say, cocaine is a hell of a drug. People don't realize they tell the truth. No, we don't want poor people to get medical care. That's expensive. What the hell?
They don't. They don't want them to get any more
Stop
stimulus.
Cocaine, man.
They are worried about if Biden gets in. What's going to happen? He's going to give stimulus to these people that they should be dead by now. That's what they literally said since July anyway. Now,
and if they're not dead, why are they? I'm trying to pretend that I actually, as a kid and even later in life, not so much now anymore, but I've met people, during casual encounters. I'm like, I don't get it. Why do poor people can't find a job? I mean, if they die, it's only like they want it. You vote for, I'm a Democrat. Okay. That's why in 20 years, you'll have a revelation that you're actually red. You're a Republican.
Well, I think right now that the Democrats that are voting, and I'll speak for myself, I'm really voting to stay alive for another 4 years, hopefully. Because I know with Donald Trump being president, that I will not be alive for another 4 years.
The problem is Trump has damaged America forever because he opened a Pandora box. And the question now is, if Biden or future 47th President Kamala Harris are not able to get back the economy Trump had that actually was created by Obama, and Trump just benefited from the push of his tax cut. But Obama created more jobs in the 4 years before Trump was elected than during the Trump presidency. The economy exploded, but not the actual economy, the stock market economy, which doesn't necessarily reflect for many people. It does reflect on some people who have 401ks and whatnot, but not, like we said, poor people. So the thing is that I don't know. I think that down the line, whoever gets elected needs, well, not whoever, but if Biden gets elected, the Democrats need to become aggressive. They need to stop not making decisions and being like, oh, we want healthcare for everybody, but not
But
single payer healthcare system.
but that's the thing about, Mitch McConnell getting back in, and, it seems like there's still going to be this level of gridlock going on in Washington. And so Biden may be there for 4 years and able to do next to nothing. I mean, we know we're going to have to pressure him and push him and all of that. But even still,
this is where I'm telling you, the Democrats need to become aggressive. There's now precedents. We're allowed to do whatever the hell we want. We can call France and ask for dirt on the Republicans. What? It's not impeachable. What? What? There are 300,000 people who died of, I don't know. What? Why? Who cares? What? It's burning. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, I mean, that's good fantasy thinking, Rick. But
we should tell Republicans to screw.
But I don't know that it would really go like that. And like, for example, imagine Obama pulling 1/10 of the bullshit.
1 billion, he would be dead. he would have been executed in front of everybody alive. I'm telling you, they would have not just impeached him, they would have destroyed him.
Yes.
But they've done this before. This is not new. I mean, Donald Trump, it feels like he's an anomaly, except that we did not have the media many years ago. White folks are doing the same shit that he's doing today. And Black folks should know, because your ass
White
is on
folks
fire.
used to be polite. That was the difference.
Well, I don't know if it was more polite or we did not have the media. They were burning Negroes in the middle of the town green. And the only people that knew they were burning in the middle of town green was the 500 people with their children and their pets that showed up to watch them burn a Black person. So no, it has not changed. They weren't quiet about it. It's just that we did not have the media that we have today. That's the only difference.
Donald, the politicians that got elected to the highest offices, because we all know this infamous call of Ronald Reagan, governor, to Nixon, where he goes crazy about the UN support of maybe it was Mozambique or Zimbabwe for the Palestinian cause, or Iran. And Reagan got crazy and used the N-word over and over again. There was also about the Black Panthers that came armed in front of Congress in California. And even Nixon was shocked, like, whoa, I'm racist. But here's the thing. Then Reagan didn't appear racist. He was, the father of the country. The difference that Trump revealed to everybody, you don't need to chastise. You don't need to hide.
No.
They agree with you. They'll vote for you.
We have not had a president, Venita, that has allowed 240,000 people to die in less than a year.
Native Americans.
Without lifting a single hand. But this is all Americans. They've gone after particular populations.
Yes.
But they have just never said F all Americans. We've never had a president talk about the US military as losers and suckers and live to talk about it. He's just outrageous on a whole different level. We've had regular old garden variety racist, but Trump shit is so far beyond racism. It's everything.
But apparently there are a lot of people that feel the way he do. Remember, it's only a small percentage of people vote that felt and feel the way he does. That's it. So he's, we never had.
And that's the thing. I think before you got here, we were talking about how 2 of those QAnon people have been elected to the House now.
Yeah.
And and just Rick was kind of describing the different types of pedophilia, and supposedly that's one of their big issues. They make up people, they don't want to fight the real pedophilia that's out there.
Well, they
You
are
know,
the
but I
pedophilia.
mean, so
They
we have
are
all
the
these people just living in a whole delusionary existence
but they are
who
the
are being
pedophilia.
elected to office.
Yeah, but they are the pedophilias. Let's go back in history. You know full well that white men have no problem molesting children. They molested enough slaves, and their white wives brought the slave little girls to the bedrooms of their husbands. So we know that they have no problem with that whatsoever. And we know when we see the women out there, Trump for president, that they have no problems bringing little girls to their husband's room. They have no problem. So why is everybody in shock? The same thing that they've always done is the same thing they're doing today. People need to get a damn grip. This ain't no new shit.
That goes beyond that, because think about it. Pedophilia is universal. That's like in India, it's horrible. In Bangladesh, in China,
Yeah.
everywhere. But
Yeah.
here's where it becomes fascinating to your point, is that look at a lot of rappers that support Trump also like the idea of very young women,
Yes.
18, 19. And we think about R. Kelly. The only difference between R. Kelly and rappers is that
Yeah.
R. Kelly is so stupid that he doesn't realize, yeah, she was 14, she told me, but I thought she was 18. Wait, what? Well, you know, that's R. Kelly, but all of the other rappers, and not just rappers like Tekashi 6ix9ine, he got caught on video supporting guys raping a 14-year-old that were all adults. He's out of jail because he's clever.
Who is this?
Tekashi 6ix9ine, the Queens guy, the guy who got, so in rap he's infamous because he got caught and he pretty much went to the FBI and said, "Oh, don't put me in jail. Let me have my career back. And in exchange, I gave you all the Bloods and the Crips of New York City." And he did. So now he's a snitch, but he's making 16 million views on YouTube with not Ariana Grande, another star. And you're like, no, our society rewards that. And this guy was infamous for having, you know, not intercourse directly, but supporting pedophilic acts that were filmed and doing this on the camera while it was happening. So, and these guys like Trump because Trump he's the boss, he's the daddy. You know how they want to be called daddy? And that's the thing with pedophilia. You look at, so, sorry, full disclosure, sometimes it happens that I stumble upon by pure accident on the porn site. And by pure accident on that porn site, there are flags where you see the preferred videos by country. So Germany, okay, Japan, same thing. Like, but it's still like it's crazy, but it's not. America, it's all incest.
Wait. What are you saying about Germany and Japan?
So Germany, they like fluids. Let's just say that. Not all, every fluid from the human body. So people like that, some of them, but not my thing. Japan, it's more games and blurry stuff, whatever. But like France, it's about cougars and milfs all the time. It's like, I don't know what the French have. Like, they like women who are in their 30s and 40s more than teenagers. But Americans, it's always incest. Stepdaughter, daughter, daddy finds daughter doing this, and you're like, I can't personally, because you know it doesn't work for me. But it's so interesting to see that in America there's an obsession about pedophilia that you don't see anywhere else in the world, and everybody seems to be watching porn going that direction. So it's like, are people you know, repressed? And so, you know, when you're really repressed, you're against something you're repressed about. Like, oh, I hate the homosexuals because they're gay, or you know.
You're bringing me back to the chapter, and so one of the things I found fascinating in this chapter was the stories about people who were having sex with like 500 people.
Gangbangs.
And yeah, and so this, of course, is related to the increase in STDs. And you know, and I guess really I had, by comparison, a rather prudish rice. And I remember a man one time said to me that he estimated, I think I was around 35 years old, and he was like, so, you've probably had sex with, let's say, 3,000 people, let's say 300 people a year, because, you probably take some vacation. And try to figure. So I thought he must have been on drugs. So as I'm reading, this, and Laurie Garrett is telling us all of these stories about people literally having that level of sex.
Yeah, but
it was rather shocking to me.
There are several things. One, men who I met, one or two men who had that number of conquests. It took years for them to admit it, because men who truly have that many women interest don't brag about it, because they know people don't believe them, so they don't say it. It's like people who have a big one, they don't say they have a big one.
Looking for their dick to fall off. I mean,
no, but at that point you're like, technically you're a prostitute, because why is a man doing 3,000 women a boss, and a woman having 3,000 men like, oh my god? Like, there's, and yeah, I don't even believe he had 3,000, because that means one intercourse every day with different women. And you know how men are. When you're 13, you kiss a girl on the cheek and it becomes like, yeah, we had sex. So
well,
I wouldn't believe most men.
I think on page 270 and 271, she was particularly referring to gay men. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're reading, Michelle? These were gay men.
I think it was, yeah.
And no, it definitely was. And I have a lot of it highlighted. There were gay men, and one pop star, Michael Callan, he was really this a pig. He
was that the one that had every STD known to man?
Was he? Wait.
Gay people felt like they've been repressed so long. There was just a cost. It was just a cost of being liberated. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think all these numbers that she was putting down, she specifically at that point was talking about the gay community. I'm sure heterosexuals out there too. Don't get me wrong, but she was talking about the gay community.
The gay community, the big difference for men, at least, in the 50s and 60s, when you were a gay man and you had to live in marriage, because otherwise, what's wrong with him? It's strange, and you get beaten up and stuff. So they had a wife and children. That doesn't mean, it's like lesbians can have sex with men they don't like. It's not about pleasure or love, and sex is sex. You get children, whatever. So these guys want, the pressure of this whole lie would have this side effect that in psychoanalysis that's known. It's that you go the opposite when you have nobody watching. The purest person who's like, I need to be pure, I'm so moral, you have to be careful, they're evil. Like missionaries during the colonization, they're pure, but they're dark, because once they're out of Spain and France, where they were watched by other people, and they're in Africa, in America, there's nobody watching, and they're God. And then this is something very dark, is that there's this part of, I'm always very, very cautious about people who are too moral, or too, because why are you trying to lecture everybody? Why are you hiding from yourself? I always say, don't lecture other people, lecture yourself. And there's a thing in the Hagakure, the samurai book, that's very interesting. They say, if you see somebody doing something crazy or not appropriate, instead of telling them, talk about that time when you did that. Without noticing, like a conversation, casual conversation, and try to talk about how you improved yourself and you felt about your own, and don't even refer to that person. The person will change, because I'll be like, hey, I'm doing the same thing. Maybe that guy gave me some good tips. But we have a society where people are trying to lecture you, and I'm very worried about that because I believe that's a sign of evil when people want to improve you.
Yeah.
I mean, we white people wanted to raise black people, like
Mm.
make them civilized. And you have to be very careful with people saying, we're bringing you peace and civilization.
Oh yeah, and I mean the this Amy Coney Garrett
Wife
person.
number two, please. Refer to her by
Yes.
her number, please. Come on.
I think she's number one. You know?
No, she's humble. She's humble. True Catholic.
Yeah, that urge going on in the culture, to try to suppress every freedom, that people have, I think is very disturbing, and that is not going to go away, um, with the election of Joe Biden. So I appreciate your point, Rick, and I think we do have to try to understand it. I was listening to a podcast the other day from a guy where the guest was a guy who had been a cult member, and so he was trying to help the audience understand why people are attracted to cults. And he was saying a very similar thing to you about how to get people to come out of the cult is not by telling them, don't tell them they're dumb as fuck and, make them feel bad. But to really try to listen to what it is that attracted them to that perspective and look at the consequences. 240,000 Americans dead, and just really recognize them as your friend who you would give a open ear to, and help them process it, because they're not processing it well on their own.
No, and this is a thing that people don't realize is that far right people, like far left, by the way, in Europe, the only way they change is when you're like, hey, I want to be part of you guys. That's what I always did. I spoke with a ton of Nazis in Europe, skinheads and stuff. But here's what happens. It's called the proof by the absurdity in philosophy. And it's a methodology that Socrates used. And it's extremely annoying to people because they're like, okay, so we kill everybody who's not white. Okay, okay. Oh, but I heard that 3,000 years ago there was an invasion here. Do you think there's some not white blood in us? In that case, should I commit suicide? Wait, no, that's not what I meant. This is how you confuse them by saying, I'm going to take what you say literally. And people have to face their own dumbness because they're like, wait, no, that's not what it's supposed to mean. Wait, what is it supposed to mean? Like if people are insane about something, go with their insanity, just control it and say, so, like the Nazis, I sent you some videos from that movie. The whole thing is, let's kill all the Jews. And there's this scene in the movie where he's like, what Jews? So everybody who's married to a Jew is a Jew? Well, no, we'll divorce them, but then we'll need to have the courts on 24 hours. And this is a horrible thing that Amistad, the movie, is also a point on that. It's only by taking the law that was considering black people property that they were able to free them, to show that it was stolen property. And since the property didn't own to any sovereign country, it was unreclaimed property. Therefore, it was not property anymore. And that's how they came back to their original land. But at first, remember, the evangelical guy gets the religious guy is incensed at the idea of having this defense in front of the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. That's the one that Matthew McConaughey comes up with, but it can work. And this is the problem with evil. Fight fire with fire doesn't mean punch somebody back when they punch you. It means use strength against strength. Doesn't mean you have to do the same thing as your enemy. Strength, you can show it in different manners.
I agree that. I agree. Because that's the way I am. I don't believe in revenge. I think it's a waste of energy. I think it's a waste of time. And quite frankly, I am one of those highfalutin Negroes. It's just beneath me. Just totally beneath me. You know, and really, I have to stoop to some real low level, and I just can't bring myself to do it. If you sit back, I found out through my life, you don't have to do anything to an idiot. They'll hang themselves. Just continue on with your life, because idiots, they don't see things from the outside in. I see things from the outside in. They see things just like this. So they don't see that hand come over here, pop them in the head over here. They don't see it over here. They don't see the back of the head. You just move on. I guarantee you, every idiot I've ever dealt with, whether it's associate, working, family, friends, you have to do a thing. They will be they'll be the cause of their own demise, just because they can't see beyond their own noses.
And vengeance is a victory for the enemy.
That's, you know, I just don't believe in that. I just don't have, matter of fact, once again, I think it's mostly because I just have that arrogance about me. It's just beneath me. I just can't stoop to that level.
There's one thing, the Talmud, the Jewish book, that's beautiful. There's a student who asks the rabbi, why do good people get punished when evil people are thriving? And pretty much the rabbi says, well, good people can only suffer because they feel evil. They're good, so they see that the world is not right, so they suffer it. Whereas evil people, even when the whole world is evil, they've been so used to evil, to them it's normal. And so they don't feel the wrath of God, unlike the good people. So the explanation I always thought was pretty interesting, because usually it's like, why does God allow evil? Maybe he doesn't allow evil, is that good people are supposed to see evil. Whereas evil people are like, it's normal. So what? Yeah, he's cutting taxes. I got a better 401k. What do you mean children in cages? That's so far away. I'm not even sure that's true. You know, the media. Evil. Evil.
Yes. Yes. Well, we certainly seem to have our share of evil going on here in modern America. And, you know, I mean, I don't expect Joe Biden to be a savior any more than I expected Barack Obama to be a savior, or any American president. You know, it's not what they do. It's not their job title. It's not in their job description. But you know, I was saying to Venita, I think last night, that I'm in that group of little Black children who were among the first to go to predominantly white public schools. And I've always said it was like the Black parents of that generation just kind of threw the children to the wolves, you know, and sink or swim kind of thing. And, you know, and that's the mid 60s. And so by the time Venita and I were young women, you know, Ronald Reagan is coming to office, you know, on a clear mission to undo whatever limited progress had occurred during the 50s and 60s. And we've been in a tooth and nail fight over those issues ever since, you know, and up to the present day. But what I've never seen happen is a real effort at the elementary school level to really to you know, take Rodney King's, you know, can't we all just get along, to really help people figure it out, you know, not to just tolerate each other, but to help us figure it out. You know, I mean, Trump, if that bastard manages to hold on here, you know, wants to remove all kinds of ethnic studies and all of that kind of thing. But it's the absolute wrong move if we want to have a world where we are not in constant turmoil. So I do hope, that is one of my hopes for the Biden administration, that he can start us down that road, and particularly, that he's got Kamala by his side. So before we close, why don't you guys tell us what are your hopes for the Biden administration?
Chirp. I really, to be honest with you, I don't really have many or any. I am so.
You said earlier you're trying to stay alive for 4 years.
That's what I'm saying. That's about the only thing only hopes that I have right now. And today, at this moment. Now I can feel differently 30 days from now, 6 months from now, but today I have no hopes of them doing anything. I just don't feel that right now. We've just been beat down for almost 4 years with a constant barrage of ugly. Now, maybe some people got it better than I do. I just don't have it like that right now. I'm just still up here. You know what I'm saying? I might feel a little differently somewhere down the line. But it's so, he's done so much damage. I mean, there's so much damage. I just don't, I think the best hope that Biden can have at this point is to keep everybody alive. I mean, really, we still have COVID. COVID is still here. It's not going anywhere. We have other issues, but we have to live long enough to even deal with the other issues. That alone is consuming, much less all the other shit that Donald Trump and the racist white folks in the White House have put down. So, I don't even know how that people can even approach that right now. I mean,
yeah, well, I don't really think Biden is going to be personally consumed with COVID. I think he's going to bring in the people who know how to do the work.
Well, of course. Give
them the freedom to do what they need to do. And then he's going to go about trying to plug up all the other holes.
Well, yeah. Well, that is my assumption. I'm just saying, we're talking politics, so I know personally he's not even thinking personally, because he shouldn't be. If he's the president of the United States, he should be taking care of business and put people in place that have the knowledge to do what he needs to get done. I'm saying in general, as me being a citizen, that I'm consumed by trying to stay alive right now. I go in the grocery store, I got people on my back with their noses out of their mask. I'm sitting here thinking today, am I going to be eating next week? Just because, Carlton is employed doesn't mean he's going to stay employed. It's just a lot that the country, each individual citizen, other than those that have it like that, are dealing with right now to be able to see the forest for the trees. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that feels that way. Ask the folks that haven't eaten since last March. What hopes do they have for the Biden administration? What hopes do they have for Kamala? Who is she? Is she bringing by some groceries today? You know what I'm saying? And people say, well, that's small. Yeah, right. When you're poor or you're working class, no, that is your immediate concern. When you have had no money and you have them in the street now or living with other relatives, okay, which is even more dangerous with COVID. It's like people they haven't gotten over there yet.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't want to exaggerate the situation either. I'm poor, but everybody is not poor. And, I think I heard a statistic today or yesterday, something like 80% of people have been able to keep their jobs through the coronavirus. some of them were able to move home. Some of them, are still on the front line, but 80%. And so, yeah, there's a significant number of us falling off the cliff. But it's not everybody. And that's part of the reason that coronavirus, does not seem to be at the top of everybody's concern.
Well, it's at the top of mine, whether I eat today or not. We all are interconnected and we all need each other. And the people that lost their jobs.
I definitely believe,
and I know that there are people that are blessed
to be the top priority.
Right. So, I'm not saying for all of us, but I do have compassion for those of us that are in that position. And hopefully the ones that aren't in that position will fight for the people that are in that position.
Yeah.
That's the least that those folks can do. But I do think about them every day. I really do think about them. Maybe because I've been there before. Maybe it depends on your experience. Maybe your experience in your life, you haven't been there before. So maybe you can't really put yourself in that little 20% of those people. A lot of have families. These aren't just college students or young people getting out of school, that's single, that lost jobs in companies. A lot of these people were in the service industry, they have families. And no, you can't always take your 3 kids if you got anybody and your husband and wife to somebody's home to stay in. That is your home. So it's a lot going on right now. I'm really blessed. And I say that that's probably, but once again, it depends on your life experiences. If folks have never been hungry, wouldn't know.
Like I said, I definitely believe it should be his top priority. I just want to also acknowledge the reality that there's a lot going on, and coronavirus is at the top of our minds for a lot of us, but there's also a lot going on. So, for example, I was listening to another podcast today that was it was a Frontline episode, and they were talking about the crisis in PPE, and somebody was trying to explain why or how it became such a crisis. And one of the points she was making was, that everybody, no matter what administration it was, they've known for years that this was a potential crisis in PPE, but because there were other things going on, because there were other priorities, they weren't doing the work, whatever it takes to bring that manufacturing onshore or whatever. They weren't prioritizing it.
Right.
So, you can never do it all, but you also do have to be able to do more than one thing.
Along with coronavirus also comes the school. We have a school situation going on. It's huge. So we have the corona. It's just not the illness itself. We have children that are going to be left way behind.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of stuff which all goes around the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
That's another issue. I mean, what I'm saying is that a lot of things is like the tentacles, as we were talking about last night, that it's the coronavirus and then it's the tentacles. And that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Before we even get to the races in DC. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. Parents are the mental illness. The parents are going through depressions. The children are going through depressions. If the poor children, don't forget it. You were poor and hungry before, and now you're not going to read. So it's a lot. That the coronavirus does have a lot in itself that will take up a lot of attention.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. Rick, your hopes for the next administration?
There's just one thing, is that coronavirus was not supposed to be like that, in the sense that one thing that the Trump administration didn't do was be involved. The federal government totally left national, state government take on management. So that's why the pandemic, the surge never stopped, because there was not a uniform policy And
Right.
France has a surge right now because instead of having a pure lockdown like England, they were like, let's do zones. It doesn't work if people can still move around. And if you do, like they had this curfew, well, if there's a curfew, people are going to have to go back home at the same time earlier, which means more concentration, more contagion. So people were moronic. The governments were trying to mix things up. What I'm saying is that with Biden, there's going to be one big difference. Now the federal government is going to talk to governors and say, we need to coordinate. We're not here to tell you what to do. But the Federal Reserve is there. We're going to use the Defense Production Act, which Trump never used, to get everything ongoing, automatized. We've got the Pentagon ready and do what the government should have done under either Bush or Obama. I mean, even Bush would have done that. That's where it's dramatic. What we need is that it's no longer Republican, Democrat, is that the Trump administration are bozos playing a TV show. Dr. Atlas is a radiologist. He doesn't understand
Yes.
infectious diseases. It's, so
That
my hope for Biden is at
Gee.
least to go back to some sort of basic scale of reality, which is, hey, do you have a diploma in medicine? Yeah. So you can maybe help. And you, do you have a diploma in medicine? No, I'm a plumber. You can't help. Deep state. You know, like, so
Seems simple enough.
it's not even a hope. It's like you said, Venita, it's not hope. It's like, could we get out of the twilight zone? I'm done with this
just for a
episode.
minute.
This
Mhm.
episode was pretty freaky, but I'm not comfortable watching it anymore. Thank you. So
Yeah, well, it is disturbing that that this race has been and still is so close. I've kind of had my eye on the TV. I don't see anything
I'm looking
final
at the
yet.
phone right now to checking it
no,
out on the phone.
Twitter's is it's been the 15th tweet of the day Trump got taken down from Twitter. Like, stop saying you won Pennsylvania. that's not true yet. If it is, so they're taking them down. Like he said last night, I won Michigan,
Yes.
Yeah,
and Twitter's like, no. What did we
yeah,
create? Yeah, it's your fault, Twitter and Facebook and
yeah.
everybody else.
It's disturbing that it's been so close. But if the final result is a Biden-Harris win, then I guess that will give me some hope that there are more Americans with their marbles intact than not, and that's a good thing.
I'm afraid the violence, because there's going to be violence one way or the other.
There's been some protesting going on in New York already.
I'm not talking about the protests. I'm talking about actual violence from the lunatics, from the Republican lunatics.
Going on. Yeah.
If you look at some of the medias, they are, they're interviewing them and they're ready. They're coming from out the mountains. They've been getting ready for 4 months. You go to the store, you can't find any ammunition. They are ready.
They forgot something. They always forget something. And I remind that to all my friends who think Second Amendment is incredible, like ammo. Sure, you got weapons. Why? Because the government, when they take it from you, then you can't resist back. Yeah. So you have an AR-15, you have an AK-47. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So does that work against an Abraham tank? Does it work against a stealth airplane? Doesn't it work against bacteriological weapons, nuclear weapons? The Moab, mother of all bombs, not nuclear weapon. No, none of that. If the Pentagon wants to react, there won't be in a civil war. These militias will be wiped out in a second.
But I don't know if they will.
People realize civil wars were possible in the 19th century when people had to.
I don't know. Now.
That was possible.
You don't know if they're going to react. That's the problem. You talk about
the
white
is that they're
folks
going
coming
to
out the
attack.
mountains. You're not talking about a bunch of black men coming out the mountains. Oh yeah, they're going to react. You're talking about white folks coming out the mountains. I don't count on white America to do anything about white folks coming out of mountains.
Oh no, but what I'm saying is that the Pentagon will, because no, they have a problem with that. Militias is a problem to the Pentagon, not because of racism, because of the power. They're in charge of domestic interventions, not these militias. It's no longer about the Pentagon won't intervene because they have good morals, but just because, hey, this is our turf. You're not allowed to. What will happen, though, is that you'll have shooters going after people in stores, in places like that, like we've had for the past 10 years on a daily basis. It's been a civil war for the poor for 10 years, even more.
And apparently you can drive a bus or two off the road if you feel like it.
Yeah. It seems it's okay. You can go to a church, attend for an hour service of people who are not supposed to greet you, but they're nice enough, and after an hour you execute them.
Right.
Rick, don't pay me any mind. I got PTSD.
No, but what I'm saying is that this has not created an outrage that much. Oh, people were like, oh, what? It's an outrage, but it goes away. Even George Floyd, even him, it's starting to fade away. It's like, and I'm sorry to say that, but at one point, I agree with people who criticize that movie from the director of Zero Dark 30, who did Detroit. There is some sort of entertainment from white people in watching Black people suffer, whether they feel that like they're going to save them or increase that suffering. But it's never about, let's fix the goddamn problem.
No.
It's always about, oh, poor Black people, or they deserve that. It's never just neutral, objective. It's always, that's why, I'm kind of, I don't have a lot of hope for the Biden administration, but
Well, I'm suffering from PTSD right now, so you can't go by me. I've been Black for 61 years. So looking from my side of the fence, I'm maybe a little more stressed than the average 61-year-old white woman walking around.
Oh no. Surprisingly, you're extremely calm compared to a 61-year-old Karen that goes haywire on minimum wage workers because she wasn't served on time and is willing to get arrested for that. You're not like that. And the surprising thing is that when you go through trauma and through struggles in your life, you do gain some strength that nobody gave you. You took because you didn't have a choice. But most white people, they freak out for nothing to the point of insanity because they don't know. Like we were talking about that, Michelle, life needs struggles, not trauma. Big difference. But we need activity. We need to be able to overcome our own limitations. And white people get that for free. So they end up corrupt. And you have a society of insane people. I'm sorry, but the QAnon, all that stuff, that doesn't come from minorities. That's our insanity. That's our nihilism. Like, like in France, everybody's obsessed with Islam. The reason why we lost our culture in France is not because of Islam, it's because of America. We're the ones lining up for Burger King instead of going to the cafe. And the West is so sick mentally right now. It's been because we are not able to move beyond decolonization. We're not able to move beyond the Second World War. It's like we're haunted by what we know we did. But we were raised thinking we were the best. So this, and at one point it's just, could we at least leave people alone and unharmed while we're dealing with that bullshit? Instead of projecting our hatred, our self-hatred upon everybody out there. Women, other nations, other people, the neighbor. Sometimes, in those white suburban neighborhoods, the hatred between neighbors is insane. But when they meet, they're like, then you hear it, they murdered everybody. Or it's
one of the other chapters in our reading last night, Rick, was on the topic of scapegoating. And she starts out telling the story of the word scapegoating coming from ancient Hebrew. And it was the tradition of presenting 2 goats to the Lord. And one of the goats would be slaughtered to cleanse the people of all of their sins. And the other goat would escape, thus becoming the scapegoat.
Be quiet, Michelle. You make me laugh.
he would carry on his back the burden of all of the sins
Yes.
that the people had committed. And so as long as this scapegoat was there, the people could live guilt-free.
Yes.
Guess how we call it in French and in all of Latin languages? We call it emissary goat. What it means is that they're the emissary of those sins. Now I understand the meaning with your explanation, scapegoat, and it runs away as an emissary with all the sins.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you for that story. I didn't know it came from that. I never actually searched it. Okay.
Well, it's sort of like the Catholic, it's like the Catholic religion. It's like the Catholic religion. It's the same thing. You can go there and take your little rosary and say your little whatever you say, and you all set till next week. I'm not lying.
I killed my husband, but I prayed 4 times.
Apparently these things are not working because, people.
Michelle, stop.
No.
Michelle, you're being offensive towards that guy that 3,000 years ago said, I got a great idea. And it didn't work out, but he's like, seriously, stop saying that. That's fake news. It worked. It worked.
Try something new.
We're too far gone, Michelle. It's too far gone. I mean, no administration can help this, really, not the psyche of people. It's a mental illness, a lot of mental illness going on. So we have to start, offering these psychopaths free mental health care, good health care. Maybe that will help.
White people got something brand new the last 20 years.
What?
How do we sound with QAnon? How do we sound with all these conspiracy theories? How do we sound when we speak now? We've gone through 20 years of prescription, heroin, cocaine, and whatnot. We have become junkies and insane as, you remember crackheads in the 80s, the 90s? The way they spoke is the way these people speak. Because drugs. Because seriously, but it's normal, it's healthcare. I'm taking drugs because I need them. No, you're a fucking junkie. I mean, what I remember in my sister at one point, she was going through a rough time, so she lived in a suburban house from friends who were really nice, and her friend was like, well, I'm worried about my children taking marijuana. She's like, well, the children are already on Ritalin, this and that, and they're 8 years old. And she was like, well, that's not the same thing. She's like, watch the chemicals. It's not the same. It's worse. But it's the doctor gave them. Well, so like opioids. And the thing is that people don't realize, and I think, I believe a lot of people are becoming crazy because of that. How many people I know are on benzodiazepines? They don't have epilepsy. They have anxiety. You don't need a benzo. Anxiety, if you need a benzo for anxiety, if your anxiety leads to panic attack and you know it, you're prone to that. But if you have just anxiety, you don't need drugs. Deal with it. There's a difference in anxiety.
Today. I went for a walk.
You junkie, walk. I heard about those people addicted to walks. It's very bad for your health.
Rick, my best friend called me this morning because she knew I was having anxiety. She called, how you making out, Venita? Because I would have called her, she didn't call me. And I had to go out to the store. Yes, Michelle knew. And I'm like, so how are you doing this morning? And she know how I'm doing. But she wanted to call, make sure I had killed a few people. I'm fine, Michelle. I'm going to go out to the store for a while. I'm going to take a walk around that little park. And really, Rick, you had to do that today to keep your nerves together.
Yeah, but you didn't take a pill.
Drugs.
You didn't take a pill.
No, we don't take pills.
I know people who take pills.
No, we don't take pills.
I know a guy on the job on 12 pills. And he's like, it's normal. It's to regulate myself. You need 12 pills to regulate yourself, bro. You need a break. You need a vacation. You need 12. You're in your 40s. I mean, my grandma was at 12 in her 90s.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a sick generation. I know it's mine. And no, but like your generation knew about real stuff. My generation, if we had put as much effort in understanding Harry Potter, Tolkien, the Lord of the Rings, or Star Trek or Star Wars, into the Bible, a musical instrument, or science, we would be the greatest generation of all times. But no, we decided that we're gonna learn everything about the Harry Potter books to the point that no, their dress is actually not green, it's auburn here, because that's the
That's
sign
right.
from this other book that you haven't read because you're an idiot and I'm the best fan in the world. And you're like, what's going on? Why are we talking about Harry Potter when we're 30s, 40s? That was for kids. We grew up with the, seriously.
Yeah, but that's what was done to you. That's what was done to you. You know,
Really?
there have been, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's been a lot. Um, the dumbing down of America has been a project that has been going on for a long time, and we're all victims of it. It's just that with each generation, they come up with new and better tools, new and better ways of adding, of adding to that. So, for example, one of the conversations we were having in book group a couple of weeks ago was about these real, was it the Real Housewives? I never watched this stuff. Never watched, because I consider the television an assault weapon. It just,
Then you whopper! Then you whopper in your face!
Yeah, I watch TV, but I'm just very careful. And I haven't always been like this. I mean, I grew up on TV, yeah, but I had to consciously decide that I wanted to break away from the just sort of subconscious manipulation that's going on. It's horrible.
One thing extremely unique in America, you don't find anywhere else in the world. And I've been to a lot of countries, I watch a lot of television in a lot of countries. My own mother, who's like pro-American, even though she's French, so that's so strange. But nowhere in the world are they as shocked. They're like, how? Wait, the movie just restarted. It's another commercial break. Yes, to the point that people, when I have French people coming to America, they don't watch TV here because they can't focus. It's this is happening in the movie, and whooper in a monster truck, and take drugs because you're going to die. You might have cancer if you bleed from your eyes. Call your doctor. Blah blah blah. Blah, blah. Going back to the movie, like Spider-Man is still fighting this guy, and all of a sudden you cut back. You can't focus.
Exactly.
It's made on purpose. Exactly. You're right. It's engineered. Like, don't focus. Don't focus. The movie's bad, and the products we're selling you are bad. Don't focus.
Yeah. No, this has been going on for a long time, and so it does. It's you're still at a generation, though, I think, where you've had some exposure to reality, and you can kind of, choose to go toward the light.
Well, I'm not sure about reality anymore. So.
Yeah, but that's the thing. With each passing generation, they are deeper and deeper into the matrix, deeper and deeper into, this manufactured reality.
Think about it, how they don't think about that. The Matrix is technically a movie about terrorists. And even if they're not terrorists in the real world, because the real world is an illusion, may I remind you that Neo and Trinity go into a full building and assassinate 30 cops who are innocent per the movie's premises just to get to the agents. They're terrorists. But everybody loves that movie, and it's been used by the alt-right against, people against what they believe justice, the red pill. The red pill leads you to a city where people are transgender, women and men are equal. There's a lot of people of color in governance because Zion and Matrix is absolutely not what the right wants. That shows how people don't think. They refer to even pop culture movies that don't say what they support. The Matrix is really like women and men are equal. They fight like badasses. Everybody has like not open relationships, but nothing's really real. So The Matrix is a very wealthy movie, and it's been made by two originally born as men brothers that became later sisters. I don't get how the alt-right could think the Matrix, that shows the little attention span even anybody has.
Yeah.
The alt-right should have been like, we can't use the Matrix, like Nazis would say the Matrix is some leftist propaganda. That would have been logical. But no, they say we love the Matrix, we're against, people who want to take our country, we're red pilled. What the? No, that's not what the movie says. Oh my god. But it's so daunting. And I remember I Full Metal Jacket when I was a kid, that movie convinced me not to go to the army. Because even at 7, 8 years old, when I saw it, I was shocked by the first part of the movie. I was like, it's a war movie. For an hour and a half, you have somebody getting trained to kill and becomes crazy. Then you have the actual war, which is horrible. And at the end of the movie, I was like, well, war is horrible. The army doesn't make you a hero. It makes you a dog, and then you have regrets. But then I learned later in America, lots of kids think that that movie convinced them to join the army. Didn't they understand what Kubrick was doing about this movie, showing that the army engineers sociopaths? Because that's the purpose of war.
Not only understanding what you see, comprehending it, but also just the process of thinking for yourself. That is adamantly opposed to the agenda going on here. And so before people even have a chance to develop critical thinking skills, before they're even developed, they're robbed of the chance to develop. And so, so by the time you get out of this public school kind of education, it's a done deal. You may somehow break away. You may somehow figure out how to think for yourself, but in most cases, I think not.
Oh, I can give you an indication of what you're saying is true because I live in Flushing, Murray Hill. It's 90% Korean, Chinese. There are a lot of small stores that are not stores. It's little classes after school classes for cello, maths, history. These Asian American families all have their kids in there after school, and the reason is because they don't trust the public school system in New York to teach them what they know should be taught to children. Like I know the most socialist French people, when they come to America, they put their children in private schools because the lack of controversy in public schools is unacceptable. Children need to be challenged. You need to show them unpopular ideas without telling them what to think and giving them the tools to be able. But America is about, you can't read that book. You can't talk about this. Oh, you're insulting America. What? Because we're talking about slavery? But slavery happened. Yeah, but you're insulting America. Okay, so don't teach that. Right. Or on the other side, teach white kids that they're all culprits. No, none of these things are true. There's something. What are you doing? Both sides are becoming insane in culture wars. That's all I know. Like there was this teacher at Yale, if I remember, who was having a conversation and explaining that they're, I get that. Yeah, you're right. You're right. When you talk like that during conversations, I don't know how those expressions, they have a linguistic function, which is to punctuate the conversation. And in Chinese, that, oh, they say, and that's saying nego. He said it 3 times. Some students thought he said the N-word. He's been fired. He's a teacher in Chinese, in Mandarin and Cantonese. So the problem is that none of these things help actual. Like I always tell some progressives, why aren't you not volunteering to help African Americans in jail right now to get money, to get released because they didn't commit a crime, it was just a felony, but then they couldn't pay for bail. Why don't you do that? They don't do it. They go on Twitter. And then you have the far right, and that's the real difference between the far right and the left. The far right is active, and that's what worries me. They take action, direct action, whereas Democrats are like, oh, we don't want to upset people. You need to get your hands dirty. There's an image that I want to show every kid out there about the civil rights movement. It's a bunch of activists. So you have black and white ones at a diner, and they're eating, and behind their back, people are dropping sugar on their heads and putting hot soup on their faces, and they keep on eating. That is strength. That's honor. That's power. Because you are more powerful than these guys trying to. But that image says, if you want to get things done, you will be humiliated. People will attack you. But white people don't want to be bothered. Okay.
Well, that reminds me of the chapter we were reading, Rick, where the doctors, that wanted to work with drug addicted people were ostracized by their colleagues and the wealthy hospitals. So, of course, if that be the case, a lot of them wanted to help decided it wasn't in there, for whatever reason they didn't, but there were a few, but that's the same example. They were ostracized because they saw that, these people need help. They're not criminals. They need help. This is, when I read that, I'm like, I can see that very well.
And it's a strange society.
Yeah, that was surprising to me too, Venita, and how they stopped teaching doctors.
Yes.
How to intervene. But was it the STD or the drug abuse or whatever it was?
Drug abuse.
Yeah.
Drug abuse. It was a criminal problem. It was easy to pawn it off on a criminal problem or a mental illness, which then will turn to a criminal. But they weren't treating mental illness either. They were, putting you in jail too. So either way, you was going to jail.
And something Laurie Garrett couldn't know because it was 94, and we know now. Because for years, drug addicts dying of OD were seen as criminals. Not a single doctor wanted to use their organs for transplants, which was dumb. Because then there was a shift in paradigm over the years, and they discovered something. People who die of OD have extremely clean organs because they didn't die in a car accident. We know exactly when they died, so we know the ischemic time. And also, usually you get an OD, your heart just stops. There's no damage to your organs. So it's horrible what I say, but if you don't, drug addicts were seen as criminals to the point that for years they refused perfectly good kidneys that could have saved human lives because of the stigma. And when that paradigm shifted, when white people got into the opioid crisis and doctors were like, hey, well, we'll take those organs now. So like you said, Venita, everything's connected. And the problem is that it can become dizzying in the sense that not a single human mind can think all of these things without becoming insane. And how do we fix society when we can't think everything of it? And that's when I say, like we were talking about Biden, you got to trust other people. And my problem right now after the Trump administration, I don't trust a lot of people anymore because I'm maybe a naive Westerner, but born in the West and raised with Western values. I thought that if an insane man came to power, the system would work like, hey, no, you can't do that. No, the guy can say, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? And people are like, yeah, well, nothing. You want to give information to the Russians? Okay, the money. Sorry. And you're like, really? Everybody's a coward? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It has been an eye opener, and that's what I'm saying. We haven't been in this situation.
No.
And 240,000 people die. We thought the country would be in flames. People would. Well, it is, but in another sense. And no, 9/11, 3,000 people. Everybody's like, oh, for years, 9/11, never forget. 240,000 people die in 6 months. COVID. Why do we always speak about that? Oh, wow. Wow.
And
sorry, I'm still in shock.
Trump has certainly been a horrible. But he's the Grinch in that story. But the media too, and not just in the COVID story, but in his whole presidency, and even going back to his campaign in 2016, because of their greed, and their monopoly capitalism game that they're playing, we're not getting real journalism, and they have been fascinated by the spectacle that Trump has provided, the nonstop drama and trauma that he has provided since he first started campaigning. Keith Olbermann was saying the other day that he knew that Trump was going to go on TV in the middle of the night and declare that he had won. And he was begging the media, don't air it live. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
But of course they did.
Remember in the past, like in the 80s, 90s, when somebody we knew said something insane, like Roseanne, for example, in the 70s, or we used not to say those insane things in another way. Then the journalists wouldn't report it. Like if the president had farted and said, fuck that, fuck those N-words, they would have reported it at first. What they would have done is say the president was caught saying some horrible things, an investigation. But they wouldn't have given airtime to the message. They were clever enough to say, and also, the scientist used to be clever. We heard he said some insane stuff, like the guy from the DNA who says that, black people are inferior, the Nobel Prize now. That's what he didn't find the DNA, it was a woman, but whatever. This guy got the prize. They stopped reporting about him in the scientific press, saying, well, you know what? There's no evidence of what he's saying. It's not adapted to our journal. Thank you very much. Goodbye. They wouldn't even say he's racist. They would say, you know what? We're going to pass. Indifference worked. Indifference, like Nazis. Remember when the KKK, there were 6 guys in the state trying to demonstrate? It worked. Indifference worked.
Right.
It's when we started saying, hey.
They have given this madman daily airtime.
Yes.
We are all in trauma.
Well, I told you,
we have all, Americans have been traumatized.
Well, I think there's people more traumatized than us, fact checkers. I think those were 4 very difficult years, and they're this close from committing suicide. They're like, you know what? Another 4 years, I'm cutting the things. I'm cutting this way. I'm not cutting this way. It's not a call for help. I'm gone. Because I remember the CNN guy every time, and off we go.
Yes. Well, that's how Connecticut handled the Ku Klux Klansmen, because they used to have rallies downtown Hartford all the time in the Bushnell. I was telling Michelle one day, I'm riding down Farmington Avenue and I stop at the light and I look over and they're in the car with their hoods and stuff on. No, really, seriously. What Connecticut started to do is they had to let them have a voice. They would go down to the Bushnell, but then the crowds would get smaller, really, really smaller, then smaller, and then suddenly there was no one there. So they still came, and you had the Grand Wizard, which I think he lived down here, either Wallingford or Vernon.
Sorry, but it's like, hey neighbor, hey, I'm going to my demonstration.
Yes, and then after a while, people just did not show up. And they finally just gave up. Of course, there was no because it's not like a whole bunch of people in Connecticut back in the 80s anyway showed up. It was 20 people in the crowd, right?
You see the KKK guy going to supermarkets and his hood saying, with flyers, like, come to the demonstration, there'll be free pie.
Yeah.
He was trying to get, and a guy in 2008, 2 people, the guy Richard Spencer from the alt-right and Steve Bannon, 2005, Steve Bannon got involved into video games, trying to make money. And he had a studio to develop a video game, and their release was unpopular, so they got trolled massively by gamers through the internet. And Bannon had the idea that was the genesis of Donald Trump. what if these guys could become a political army? They're very toxic. What if we could drag them to where I think they should go? Because they're an incredible army and they are really good at destroying and disturbing a lot of things. And the Richard Spencer guy said, Nazi doesn't work. It's unpopular. Let's not talk about far right. Let's use the word alt-right. Why alt? Because alternative rock. Alternative rock means counterculture, and the counterculture was on the white side, the anti-racist, anti-sexist, punk, metal, rap, jazz from the white scene that was in connection with the black scenes from Jamaica to New York during the 80s and 90s, and was, tape trading. Like Anthrax and Public Enemy, nobody thought rock and rap could work together and they worked without nobody going on MTV for them, and they made money. These guys are the model of the nostalgia of the 2010s. So what did the alt-right do? They captured that image and said, we're the new punks, we conservatives. No, you're not, and it worked. And instead of manifestos, memes. Reduce the message to the minimum and always oppose to the left their own values. For example, oh, you're being racist. Oh, you're against human rights, which doesn't mean they're for them. But when you say that, you pretend you're for them. So people are attracted to you. And then when later you say, I don't criticize black people, it's not about race. It's about black Americans. And that's the message you hear sometimes on the internet. Their culture is a problem. But as humans, they're like us. Wait, no, that's the same thing. Race, the way you put it, it's still the same thing. You're still advocating for segregation and murder.
Words matter. Words matter.
You can change the vocabulary, but it worked. Unfortunately, it worked. Plus Russia. Oh, one of my hopes for the Biden administration, we need to retaliate. I'm being very power trippy here, but Russia needs to be brutalized. I mean, if you're the president, I come in, I'm like, can we destroy their internet infrastructure entirely? Like, we don't even need to attack. We're just using hackers and break them. And can we have pictures of Putin naked on the internet, deep fakes, and we say it's him, and if people say it's not, we say it's him? At one point, we need to fight back.
Can he be naked screwing Trump?
Now, see, Michelle, you have to always go way over there somewhere.
Well, Michelle, I need to hire you in my new troll forum against the right wing. I was thinking about creating the equivalent of the alt-right for the left in a way which would have been,
That sounds like
going
my
after
dream
the
job.
right. No, but like using memes and like, there's one question I have for Republicans. Why are they socialists? You see, that would be an example. People like, they're not socialists. Yes, they are. They have free healthcare. Senators. They're paid for life. They get bailed out. Their rich friends always get bailed out. So it's socialism, but just for them.
Socialism. Always.
Right. So why are they socialists? Like an attack and do trolling like that. And the left is all about cancel culture, which is not a thing. But what I mean is, you can't make a policy by just canceling Roseanne. Roseanne is an idiot. We know that. She's not important. Move on. Trump is the problem. Mnuchin is the problem. Stephen Miller is the problem. So, yeah.
All right, you all. It has been lovely. Let's go back to our obsession of trying to figure out who's going to be the next president.
You know what? I'm going to provoke the states. I'm going to tweet, hey, who can count faster? You guys can't count. You're morons. I'm sure that you can't count. Seriously, count. What is going on? It's still, Georgia.
I'm glad you're on our side.
Wow, Georgia.
What happened to Georgia?
Trump only leads by 1%. That's still 5% of votes to be counted.
Oh.
Georgia is surprising.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Georgia is surprising.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Now, if he gets Georgia, I'm sure Trump's like,
I know.
He'll become red and have a heart attack. And then say it wasn't a stroke.
If only. All right, you all. See you next week. Have a good week. Be safe, everybody. Try not to be too anxious.
As usual, it's been a pleasure. Stay safe,
Always.
okay?
Yep.
And I'll see you next week.
Take care.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.